Hello, everyone.
And welcome to Chameleon Conversations.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Desiree.
Today we're going to have a conversation about systems, part 1.
Yeah, we tried to work this into a one podcast type of deal, and it's just so much awesome information. I think it's best that we divide it into 2 parts.
Just break it up a little bit.
Yeah, so for part 1, we've actually just been talking about systems in general, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been coming up a lot.
Yeah, so systems are known as habits or routines. We all have them by intention or by default. They are deeply embedded into our lives by what we do daily.
How we get up in the morning, how we make our coffee, start our work day, even how we relax and unwind.
Even if you feel you are anti-system, just a free-flowing, spontaneous human being, well, even that is a type of system. Despite our methods, we all, by nature, have pretty similar goals. Happiness, shelter, financial stability at the very least. Some people want that overflow, money. But yeah, we all want to belong, etc., etc. And yet, we see very different outcomes.
So it seems goals don't determine outcomes, our systems do.
Yeah, there's a quote that says, "A happy life rarely happens by accident," but you could change that to a successful life, a chaotic life. It doesn't even matter what you fill that blank in with. It just doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah, and I think the systems can be, in its smallest form, a small routine that causes happiness as well. Like I recently watched a video of someone who quit coffee for a month, and the caffeine withdrawals faded after a few days, but what he truly missed was just the habitual making of the coffee every morning and just that small bit of joy that kind of came from that.
Oh, I can relate. I love coffee. Will not quit. So next week we will get into the kind of nitty-gritty of our lives and the habits that we've personally been working on, but we wanted to mention a few key factors when dealing with our systems and habits that we have found extremely helpful.
Number 1, start with what you have control over.
Absolutely. A friend of mine recently asked me a question: what if you don't have control over certain things in your life? She was referring to her work hours right now with COVID and everything that's going on. They keep fluctuating, and also her living situation being a shared living situation, so that those are elements that you can't control. If you look at things like that, it can become an overwhelming picture of just so many things that you don't have control over. I would highly recommend not focusing on that, not starting there.
Everyone has the ability to make decisions over some part of their day, some part of their time, or even some part of their mindset. Start there. Some of these things that we talked about, like the living situation or work schedule, you may not be able to have control over in the short term, but in the long term, that can be a goal that you can eventually work towards, overcome to create that perfect system.
Yeah. We say a lot in our household, everything we have is everything we need to begin something. So if we want to start some sort of a project, I don't like to start with a mentality of lack, like, oh, well, I need to buy this first. Well, I need to get that, and then it'll work. If I had more money or more time, no, I like to say, where can I start with what I have? Let's start there. And it has been extremely helpful for us, I think. It pushes us a lot. And
yeah, I think it encourages creativity, and just being thankful for what you have already. And then I think like you said, we're kind of shown all the time what we can do with what we have. It doesn't even have to be what little we have, just what we have, and being surprised at what you can create still.
I think recently we actually found this out with a future project that is to come. I wanted and was looking for someone to do some type of animation type thing. And I realized we have all of the things that it takes that the other people use to make these animations. Like we have the iPad, we have the iPad pen, we have an app, you know, and it was kind of like, why don't we give it a try?
Yeah.
And it's been really, really fun just taking on this new little project, learning and being surprised at what we can do just with what we have.
Yeah. Think of it like building a foundation brick by brick, step by step, one thing at a time.
I think there's a great deception out there that humans are naturally good at multitasking, or that we're made to do it. Do I think that some people can? Sure. But overall, I think when you multitask or divide your attention between tasks, you do all of the things at an average level, rather than when you put all of your focus into something, it becomes more better, more superior. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch any video or documentary that is about a master of something, they are always so meticulous, and they take their time preparing for what they're about to do. They take their time going through what they're doing, and they even have like a post, routine. And it's like, you never see a master of something. Oh, and they also check their Twitter feed while they're doing it. Like,
they're making their amazing dish for their 5-star restaurant. They're on Twitter making sure that they...
They're never multitasking.
Yeah.
But it's because they have mastery over that thing, and they've created those systems that allow them to excel at such a great level.
Yeah, like an athlete and their training. They have a training schedule. They have, things that they do. They have coaches and different people that help them develop these plans for them specifically. So yeah, it's a focus is extremely crucial to that success.
Yeah. So start with what you have control over.
Number 2, be flexible.
We want to build systems, we want to build structure, but if something out of the ordinary comes into our day or system, we cannot be so rigid that everything unravels, including ourselves. We must learn to bend, but not break.
There's so many things that happen in a day that you don't have total control over. And so if something shifts and your system gets messed up, it's not to unravel you, to make you fall apart, to be like, well, shoot, today is a wash. What are some things that might make us break?
For example, just the other day, I was editing some audio, and a part of my audio just got erased, and I couldn't find it. It seemed like for no reason, and it just bugged me. I even tried to move on, and it was still in the back of my mind, just kind of agitating me.
We switched projects completely, and you were still just definitely disturbed.
Yeah, and so, eventually I got back to it, and I solved it. I figured out what was the problem, but yeah, just something like that just is kind of like a little thorn in your side, and if you're not flexible enough, it could just ruin your whole day. And like, fine, I'm just done working today, I need to go, do something else, or just stop working, but...
Want to get away?
But yeah, you just gotta kind of bob and weave and be flexible and overcome it.
Yeah, well, and you also did the really amazing thing of like stopping to assess what it was that was agitating you, because I wasn't aware of this thing that happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, what's the attitude for? Like, what's going on? And you were just like, I think, and you pinpointed the root. You were like, I think it's this other project that I'm working on. I'm sorry, I'm not like mad at you or anything like that. It's just this thing is still in the back of my mind. And then we stopped, we did a little prayer, we went and tried to kind of move forward, and then you went back to the problem and eventually fixed the original problem.
Yeah.
Something else that can kind of be frustrating is if maybe your system or your habits clash with someone else's. We need to be flexible in situations like that and find some sort of common ground, make compromises, because honestly, not every system is right for every person. We've found that with you and I. We like to work differently in certain aspects.
That actually is really big in the military and the Air Force. They teach about kind of working with people, because you constantly are, and being flexible. Also leadership styles. So if you have someone leading you, being flexible to their leading style, even though you may have a totally different idea of how something should be done, and then vice versa. If you are leading, being flexible to your team that you are leading, and understanding that not everyone is going to be, maybe as proficient or whatever. Just, again, flexibility is key.
Wow, yeah, so good. It's so good to understand that being different doesn't mean disunity. It doesn't mean that you're not working together. We work together on so many things, but we might choose to work on that thing a little differently. And sometimes we have to make compromises and work the same.
Yeah.
There can also be things like interruptions to your day, like someone calling you, a family member, a friend, needing some kind of help, or just those things that just cut right into your day. C.S. Lewis actually has a great quote that says, "The truth is, of course, that what one regards as interruptions are precisely one's life." And I have found that to be so true. The things that kind of seem to be interruptions can, at the end of the day, be some of the things that bring me the most fulfillment. That I helped someone who truly needed my help, or that I spent some time with someone and I did need a break and I didn't realize. Those things can be so beautiful if you look at them in that way. Obviously, if it gets out of balance, that can be bad. I think even kids too, like parents that work from home, or just like when the kid comes and interrupts, some of those moments can be some of the sweetest moments with your child if you just take that moment. Obviously not the whole day, don't let it kind of disrupt the entire system, but taking that moment to be present, to acknowledge this interruption and see it for something beautiful and the potential that it could be or could hold.
Number 3, our systems need to go with us and grow with us.
What does that mean, babe?
Well, if there's one thing we know, it's that change is constant.
Absolutely. Seasons of life vary in their difficulty. There's sometimes deadlines or urgency of a matter that needs to be addressed like right away. There's transition seasons like moving or job situations. A growing family, adding a new member, that's a huge shift or change. So many things in our lives are constantly changing.
So it's important to assess and reassess our systems and make adjustments whenever and wherever necessary. Oftentimes, all it takes is a minor adjustment, adjusting how long you work on something, asking for a little extra help in an area, or even shifting things around a bit in a budget.
Minor adjustments and reevaluations are so important. We try to meet quite frequently and discuss our systems and things almost weekly sometimes, just to kind of be like, how is this working? Is there something you can do differently? Minor adjustments will have major impact on the outcomes of everything that you're trying to accomplish. So our systems need to go with us wherever we go, whatever situation, and grow with us. As we mature, as we gain wisdom or knowledge, our systems should grow as well. Number 4, get outside perspectives.
There's nothing more frustrating than desiring change in our lives and not being able to figure out how to get there. People who know and love us can see things in us that we may not see.
You definitely are that person for me in so many areas. You see something that I don't see. You add something to what I'm trying to do that fixes it or adjusts it or makes it better. I feel like we see that with each other a lot.
That's funny. This morning while I was reading Called to Create, a book by Jordan Rayner, they were talking about married couples who work together and how they see each other's, not necessarily faults, but kind of blind spots when one may have been used to a style of work, or even maybe a mistake that they kind of just got used to. The other one kind of called them out on it and kind of saw their intention, but just corrected it a little bit, and how they worked so well together because they know each other so well.
People can just have different mindsets. I think that's one of our favorite stories, is that the creator of VeggieTales, these little vegetables that talk and teach little Bible lessons and such, the original artist and creator was thinking to make them chocolates and sweet things that kids would love, but a wife walking by was like, parents aren't gonna like that. And now we have VeggieTales, because honestly, that's a mother's perspective. That's a, you know what I mean? Like, oh, no mom is gonna want to support this, you know, constant unhealthy thing in your face. Like, make them vegetables instead, you know? But we've heard that a lot with different successful people. It was their wife or someone who added a little bit of spice or a little bit of sugar to something that was already becoming great, and how it really just makes it that much better.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, you know, wife or husband. It can also be someone who just knows you really well, a friend, family, yeah. But just someone who knows you well enough, someone who can see the fault in what you might be doing, but it can correct you with love and kind of help realign you to what your true purpose is in the situation. Yeah,
it's not always faults. It could be just patterns or habits, and someone could know something that makes it go quicker, faster. They could know a better strategy. So being open to learning, I think that goes under this point so well. It's so silly to think that we know it all, that we just know everything that we could possibly need to know about something or how to do it. We should be constantly open to learning.
Yeah, I think there's also something to be said about someone who you don't know well, working with them, or someone who you don't normally work well with, maybe because they don't work the same way you do, but you can learn so much from that. It's really easy to get frustrated and just like separate yourself from them, but sometimes it can really benefit you because you can see, like you said, a more efficient way, or just a different way of accomplishing the same goal, just from that person. It
just broadens your horizons, rounds out your techniques, and makes you a more diverse person, which is great, because then you, from that experience, could work better with the next person who maybe has a similar style and be like, oh, okay, well, when I worked with this last person, this is what got us really moving, instead of kind of continually hitting that brick wall. I think it's great to get advice from people who love you, but even if you can see through your wounds when someone says something a little too harshly, and even search that for any kind of truth that might be there, the greatest growth and maturity can come from a person who can kind of access or tap into that ability. In our financial peace class, again, we will continually and forever talk about this. What's his name? I was going to call him Gordon Ramsay, but that's the chef. Dave.
Dave Ramsay.
Yeah. Dave Ramsay has this part in the beginning of the course that talks about the plan and kind of what they're going to set up to do. And he comments on the people in the audience who are already going, I don't know, I would probably tweak that part of it, or I might do this part differently. I don't know if I agree with that. And he points out that he is the one who has built the wealth. He is the person who has talked to and studied people who have accumulated wealth. And he said, you're here for a reason. So can you just stop and just not say, I'm gonna do the plan-ish, and just try it first?
Yeah, it's like, it's worked for me, it's worked for millions of people over and over and over that have done it correctly. So it's like, try it. If it doesn't work, it's like,
then do your tweaks.
But at the
give
same
it
time,
full...
like, he's like, it works every time. Like, if you do it correctly, it works every time.
Yeah, it was just really funny. He used the example of a gazelle, and we laugh and we say this in our house all the time. You know, the gazelle trying to get away from a predator. It does everything. It just runs. It does everything it knows to do, and it does it all and full out. And he kind of just talks about that, just giving it your all, not ish, not well, but I think maybe it's like, no, if you want to try something and implement a plan, just give it your all.
Like your survival depends on it.
Yeah. Albert Einstein has a quote that says, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. And I think that that's where the greatest frustration can come from, and that's where an outside perspective can be extremely helpful and beneficial.
Okay. Number 5, patience and grace.
Giving up too soon, or simply just impatience, is a pattern of mine that I have had to seriously wrestle with. I think a time in my life where this first kind of became very obvious to me was when I went on this little hiking trip with my sister and her now husband and a friend of mine. We went on this hike, and it was really long, and I am not a hiker. And it's probably the longest hike that I had ever been on at the time. And so I was exhausted pretty much the whole way. We had to continually take breaks. Towards the end, different people had to carry my pack because we were camping up at the top, which again, it was Glacier Basin, Washington. It was absolutely gorgeous. Highly recommend. At one point, I just couldn't really go on anymore, and I just was done. So Timmy and my friend went on ahead and took all of our stuff, and they said, we'll go ahead, we'll start setting up camp, and we'll be back and meet you back here, or you guys can just meet us when you kind of finally arrive. Well, they leave, and me and my sister are drinking some water, taking a break, and we begin to, and they come right back. And I was like, wait, what? The campsite was just over the hill. If I hadn't have quit and just had given it just a teeny bit longer, I would have done the whole thing, but I had given up right before the finish. And I think that I noticed that in other areas of my life, and it began to be somewhat of a joke, but kind of a little bit serious that
like
I was
a pattern.
I was noticing a pattern. What about you, honey? Are there some things that you have given up too quickly on or are impatient about the process?
One thing that I've been a little impatient with is our finances and just our debts. I had a lot of student loans from college, and just that process of chipping away at it. I've been chipping away for almost 8 years, I think, now, and I'm getting close to the end. And now with our financial piece and just our guidance, we're really chipping away a lot faster at it now. But yeah, I've definitely had some impatience with it and struggled with it, even though we've fluctuated with, adding to it, subtracting to it, and just like the difficulties of debt is frustrating. And through financial peace, how to kind of be at peace with it and take it one step at a time. And it is a lot less overwhelming when you have a plan or a system.
Absolutely. I think once we saw that plan, that snowball effect, we were just like, wow, that we can do this. Like, it all of a sudden shifts your mindset to just like, when will this end, to, oh, this will end, and we can do this, and the benefit in the long run is going to be amazing. But it's hard. It's hard to get through that impatience and that mentality of wanting to just give up on something.
Not only do you have to have patience and grace for yourself, but you have to give that away to others as well.
My dad had an incredible example of this when I pretty much just kind of turned my life around. I stepped away from my stripper job and doing drugs, lots of them, and just kind of dwindling my life away. When I made that shift, I, of course, was so excited for myself And I was just so thrilled that my life was beginning to just take a different turn that I was proud of. And I couldn't understand why other people weren't so incredibly and extremely supportive and weren't just cheering me on. And it was my dad's perspective, again, that outside perspective, sharing with me that people who have seen someone grow over time, or even just looked at my life, could see the inconsistencies. How I truly did well for a while, and then I would fall back down a spiral, and then I would do well for a while, and then I would fall back down into just bad habits and bad things. And he said that people often need proof over time, and that really clicked for me. I was like, oh, you have to kind of do it for a while for it to really sink in, for others to care or believe. And that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just a fact of life. But he was right. And after I had just kind of remained consistent, I mean, it's full circle. People come to me and ask me, like, how did you do that? How did you get through those things? Like, any kind of difficult season, people come to me and ask for my advice, and I'm blown away by why. But I think it's just consistency over time. I didn't ever fall back like I had before.
Yeah, sure.
And so throughout that whole process, I really had to be kind to others, understanding of others, but also be kind to yourself. Another wise woman that entered into my life, she told me, Desiree, I know you're on this track. You're getting your life back together, and you're so excited. When you mess up, not if you're gonna mess up, but when. The trick is not to spiral. And just to understand that mistakes and failure are a part of it. And that was just the most incredible wisdom, because you do fail. We fail all the time as human beings. But giving yourself grace in that is what will get you through.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's okay to take one step back and then begin moving forward again. It's not okay to take like 5
steps
just
to
back.
Run in the opposite direction.
And then or it's just more difficult, and
it just takes longer.
Yeah, it's just a lot harder.
My dad used to say, you can go around the mountain again. I mean, if you want to, like, we can just keep going around and around the mountain. But if the goal is to go up the mountain, you have to go up, you know?
Yeah.
A big part of this patience and grace and all of that is learning to communicate your needs and your wants, and doing it more than just one time. But also, again, being patient as others adjust to the idea and then take time themselves to implement it themselves. So if you're trying to do something completely different, maybe as a parent or as a husband and wife, first you have to communicate well and with love and kindness what you're trying to do and why it will help you or us or them or whatever. And then you have to give people time to accept that idea themselves, and then also to begin to implement it, remembering that you can sometimes be ahead of people mentally. Like you've already processed this, established your reasons for doing it, and you're going for it. Other people need that time too.
Yeah.
So again, number 5 is patience. Just great and extreme patience with everyone involved, including yourself, and just giving grace. So again, number 1, start with what you have control over.
Number 2, be flexible.
Number 3, our systems need to go with us and grow with us.
Number 4, get outside perspectives.
And number 5, patience and grace.
Our systems are a result of what we've created or what we've tolerated. If we do not like our outcomes, then stop tolerating and start creating.
We want to focus on solutions, problem solving, innovation, not the problem itself or what we've tolerated. Those are great things to realize and pay attention to, but now is the time to start digging into solutions and where we can find areas where we can make those minor adjustments. Have conversations with yourself, with God, with friends, and really just, attack those systems. There's so much more we could say, but that's That's the beauty of conversations. They never truly end. And we hope you continue this conversation and many more.
We'll see you guys next time.
Love you.
Bye.